Okay, this is great. I'm having a good time. Speakers have been wonderful. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. Looking forward to the future speakers as well later today. I'd like to start with a few, can I switch to, oh, thank you. I'd like to start with a few assumptions. First of all, I assume that you are here because you believe that the system, the education system in India is flawed. And that our focus, intense focus, thank you, on students doing well on board exams and getting admitted to selective universities has narrowed the curriculum in a way that we are no longer serving the needs of students nor the needs of our society. I'm also going to assume that you're here because you believe your school can do better. You can better serve students, you can better serve society and the collective needs. And that you individually believe you have a role to play. Whether you're a teacher, whether you're a school leader, an owner, coordinator, whatever role you have, you're here because you believe you have a role to play in changing the school, changing system, changing outcomes. And finally, that you're here because you're looking for some answers, you're looking for some ideas, you're looking for inspiration, right? Do I have those assumptions right? Okay, great. And so, the title of the talk was, Transforming Schools is Difficult. Where do I start? So for me, the starting point is always be clear about your vision. Be clear about where you're going, where you want your school to go, what you want for your students. You can hole yourself up in your office and write a vision. You can contract a consultant to write a vision for your school. I would strongly recommend you do neither of those options. Make it a community-wide project. Make it an effort that everybody contributes to. You need all the voices. It needs to be not only your school, it's the teacher's school, it's the student's school, it's the alumni school, it's parents' school, it's the community school. It might be other leaders in the community. Bring them all in. Make them part of the process. At Green School, where I started, I moved my family back in August 2014. I went there as a parent and just listened a lot. It was at a bad time at the school's history. It was a time when there was a head of school who was on paper qualified, but just a really poor match in terms of leadership style. And the morale was very low. There was no clear direction. And people were arguing with one another. Stakeholders were not getting along. So I thought, well, in California, when I was there doing school transformation work for 20-odd years, the last 10 years in particular, we always started in the same place. We started by getting the community together and facilitating a process to create what we called a graduate profile. A graduate profile was defined as what students should know and be able to do by the time they graduate to be prepared for success in college and career. That was our definition. That process started the engagement of the community and got the whole community involved. So I thought, let's do that at Green School. Let's see how it works. So I volunteered and said, I'd love to facilitate this process if you're interested. And we kind of vetted the idea to some parents and students and teachers and the administration. They all said, yes, we need it. Let's do it. So I had the privilege of working with all the stakeholders, coordinating that process, facilitating it from the behind. I tend to be I talk to myself as someone who leads from behind, right? I don't want the limelight. I don't want to be in front. I don't want to get all the attention. I'd rather kind of be the magician who kind of orchestrates things and lets others step forward and get the credit, right? And so we coordinated a group of about 30 people, individuals from each of the various stakeholder groups. They became this coordinating committee. We prepared them. They went out. They gathered input from all their various constituency groups, hundreds of people. They brought it all back. We consolidated, synthesized, worked hard to come up with a draft that we felt represented the voices, all the voices that we heard. Lots of iteration, 6 to 8 month process in all, and we ended up with not a graduate profile, but the learning and living ambitions is what we ended up calling them, that were aligned to the school mission, which is a community of learners making our world sustainable. And what we came up with was this: at our core, we want students who feel joy and passion. They're kind, they're compassionate, understanding, and they have a desire to make a difference in our world, in their world, whatever that constitutes. My first grader, he can impact the family, he can impact his classroom. As kids get older, they have a wider circle of influence, right, and can make more impact around the world. But this indication is that first and foremost, we wanted our children to be human. We wanted them to be good people, right? Most important, the learning, the test scores, whatever, it's all secondary. We want to raise good, we want good people, right? The community made a very clear statement. In addition to that, we wanted to nurture and foster some personal qualities. We wanted them to be healthy and vibrant, confident and empowered, self-aware, resilient and adaptable, and ethical. And then some life competencies that will take them far in whatever they choose to pursue. Be creative and deep thinkers, expressive and collaborative, knowledgeable. This is where the content knowledge comes in right here. It's a slice. And in this case, it's a narrow slice of all of what we wanted. Resourceful and self-directed, as Aaron said, we want them to be able to learn from themselves. Have a goal, pursue it, take initiative. And finally, because this is green school, we want them to be green and sustainable. So this is our hope for our children and for ourselves. We created this, we started calling it a graduate profile, then a student and community profile, because we realized these are not just qualities and skills and competencies that we want for our children. We're still striving to identify and kind of pursue them ourselves. So that's what made this community profile for all of us. And that we need to, and I learned this from Aaron, we need to model the learning process. We need to model that we're still engaged in that process so our children can see that we are on that constant pursuit as lifelong learners. So this is how we love and cherish our children. This is how we prepare them for their futures. And this is how we invest, all of us collectively, in making the world a better place. That's what we came up with. It took 6 to 8 months. Was it worth it? It's a long time. Absolutely. The whole community was involved. The whole community is engaged. The whole community feels empowered by this statement, and the whole community is together moving forward. Take the time, create a vision. So I have a secret for you. Not really a secret. You know this already, but we don't act upon it very often. If we want our children to be collaborative, guess what? They need to collaborate, and they need to practice that often. If we want them to be leaders, they have to be put in leadership positions. They have to struggle, be challenged, fail, try again, get support, mentoring, guidance, coaching. Do it again. That's how we become leaders. Leaders is not inborn, some a little bit more so than others, but if we want children to be creative, there need to be lots of opportunities to express themselves creatively. We had the great privilege of going to Kieran's school, to Riverside, yesterday. Student art is all over the place. And there's no shortage of opportunities for students to express themselves creatively. So the only way to foster these skills is by shifting the school's approach to learning. So the big question is this: how do we promote all those other skills, like the ones identified at Green School, without compromising the content standards that are critical for students to do well on the board exams? And that question was kind of posed over here on timetable, I think. The good news answer is, it's not so much about teaching different content. We're not asking you to teach different content. We're asking teachers to teach content differently. And as Aaron says often, it's more important, how we teach is more important than what we teach. Because by using instructional methodologies that engage students, that allow them to be creative, that expect them to solve challenging problems, that expect them to collaborate with one another in order to find creative solutions, that's how they learn. That's a learning mechanism. It doesn't take away from the content. It's just merely a different approach to the content. So I swear I didn't copy Kieran, because she and I never, where's Kieran? We never talked about this, but I have 5 lessons. maybe it's good we think alike. To think like her, man, I feel like the luckiest person in the world. Um, Lesson 1. If you don't believe this already and you don't think you can bring yourself to believe this in the coming weeks, months, I have to say this, maybe you're in the wrong profession. Because teachers are our greatest asset and will always be our greatest asset. Teachers spend more time with our children than any other adult, any other person. All the research, there's no shortage of research in this field. All the research says, over decades, the one indication of the ability of a child to learn and succeed in school is the one-on-one relationship that that child has with the teacher. Quality teachers are paramount. Invest in them. Invest in their happiness, invest in their work conditions, invest in their professional growth. No teacher comes out of teacher preparation program ready on day 1 to teach. No teacher in the world. It's an on-the-job training. You have to learn it on the job. So nurture them, allow them to grow, let them create their own professional development, their professional growth plan. They know how they need to improve. They know what their goals are. Let them decide the goals, the strategies to learn. Consult with them, coach them, mentor them, give them support. How can I help you meet your goals? But nurture them and let them grow. Too often, they're like birds and we clip their wings. We can't clip their wings. We need to be the wind beneath their wings and let them fly and let them soar. That's the only way our schools succeed. There's no school that's any better than its teachers. There's no school that's any better than the quality of its teachers. So as I move into the second lesson, I have a bit of an analogy story. I am a runner. I've been running regularly for 40 years since I was in high school. Several mornings a week, and it's my cup of coffee in the morning. It's what makes me feel alive. It wakes me up. I need it. On a day like today, absolutely essential. And I was up at 5:40. I left this morning. Yesterday, where's Naveen? Yesterday I went out. Whenever I come to a new city, that's the one I can't wait to get up early in the morning and go for a run and explore. And Naveen did that with me yesterday. Had a great little jog and talk together. When we got to Bali in August 2014, I couldn't wait to get out and explore and run, and I found these amazing rice fields to run through, and I ended up finding about 3 different routes through rice fields in different ways. And I'm not a farmer. I don't know anything about rice farming whatsoever. Really, I've only been on a couple farms in my life, but over days, day after day, week after week, month after month of running through rice fields, I got to learn a lot about the rice farmers and the crop cycle and all that. And I learned to really appreciate the various different stages of the crop cycle. So I love it, for example, when the little tiny green sprigs are just planted and the field is just flooded, but these little sprigs are pointing up in these uneven, lines that could clearly tell were done by hand. And then a few weeks later, when those sprigs grow into big plants and they could just cover the landscape. Sorry, trying. Yeah. There you go. Okay. It works. See, we keep learning, right? And then, just beautiful, expansive green. And then after a few more weeks, when the rice kernels come out and their brownish golden color, the weight lazily hanging over and against the green leaves, just beautiful, right? And I loved running through rice fields, all these stages. But then came the harvest. And unfortunately, at that stage, obviously they chop. You've seen it all through the Indian countryside, I know. But the plants, they stop watering, the plants turn brown, the weeds grow. It looks pretty ugly. And I was running through thinking, gosh, plant the new crop already. This is ugly. Sorry, trying. Should I do this again? There we go. And then after a few more weeks, they sit there a few more weeks, and after a few more weeks, they rototill it under. And it looks even worse, this kind of ugly, muddy muck that just sits there for weeks, and I'm thinking, plant the crop. This is ugly. I'm not enjoying my runs anymore. But the farmer You know, these are doing this for generations, right? They're wise, they're patient, and they know that in order for a new crop to grow, to thrive, to survive, the conditions must be right. The soil and weather conditions in this case, but the conditions must be right. And so you, all of you, as educational leaders, and I use leaders broadly, teacher leaders, coordinators, principals, owners, you all have a role to play, right? You might be conveners, you might be risk takers, you might be idea people, you might be advocates, champions, influencers, whatever your kind of role is, you're all leaders in one way or another, right? The role of an educational leader is to assure that the conditions are right for teachers to teach and students to learn. That's your number one goal. It's your number one job. So lesson number 2, create a safe and supportive environment for your teachers to be amazing, right? That means protect them, remove the fear, and set them free. Protect them from yourselves sometimes, to be honest, right? If they're fearful of you, change the way you interact with them so they're no longer fearful, right? Protect them from parents. Another question earlier to Kieran, what do you do about parents? When parents come to the school and say, my son says he's learning about leadership or collaboration, is there a board exam for that? The principal, owner, you've got to come to the defense of the teacher and say no, and just explain why, and explain the school vision and say, this is why we're doing it. Trust us. Your son will be better off. The teacher can't be fearful that a parent is going to come and lecture him or her, right? So remove that fear. Set them free. Third lesson, model the behavior you want to see in your teachers and in your students. You want them to trust you? Trust them. You want to respect you? Respect them. Say please. Say thank you. Say I'm sorry. Simple things. You want them to be collaborative and learn from one another, a lot of cross-sharing and cross-learning among teachers, and be reflective and share practices and observe one another and demonstrate that kind of collaboration. Collaborate with them. You want to be reflective, and you want them to be reflective about their process, their practice, so they can improve. Demonstrate publicly your ability to reflect and learn from your reflection and your mistakes. You want them to take risks? Take risks. You need to walk the talk. That's the only way they'll believe you. You can talk you can say anything. They won't believe you unless they see you doing it. Lesson 4. So schools, in order to nurture the kind of environment that allows teachers and students to thrive, need skilled, compassionate leaders, not overbearing bosses. Graphic that came through my my LinkedIn inbox as a post about a year ago. I just always hung on to because I knew I'd have a purpose for it. So I found that purpose today. The boss, overbearing boss, expects the other sheep just to follow. Don't ask questions, follow me. Do as I say. The leader, compassionate leader, swims along with the school of fish as a member of a team, experiencing together, exploring together, learning together, right? So I don't need to run through this with you, but in essence, the leader builds capacity of their teachers, of their team, of their staff, right? They build enthusiasm. They talk about we. We're in this together. Let's go together. Let's do this together. They ask permission, ask someone to do something. Do you have time to help me with this? Rather than giving a command. So last lesson. That stuff that I just showed you, it's just about humanity. It's just being human. It goes back to the book that Aaron mentioned. All I ever needed to know, I learned in kindergarten. This is just basic kindergarten stuff. Be kind. Be respectful. Be supportive, appreciative. Say thank you. Value and empower others. And the one critical one that doesn't get enough attention is be willing to be vulnerable. Be willing to say, I don't know. I never thought about that before. What do you think? Let's go ask some others. I need help. None of us are perfect. None of us have all the answers. No one expects you to. So just be open, be honest, be human about it. So finally, we've seen, here, and we'll see today, some islands of excellence that spot a sea of mediocrity. There's, the Isha schools and Yellow Train and Riverside schools, islands of excellence, no question, right? But they're in a huge sea of mediocrity right now. The challenge and invitation for all of us is that we need to fill the sea with islands of excellence so that India becomes a land with excellent educational opportunity for all youth, all children. And so I stand here today in gratitude to all of you for the work you do every day, supporting our children, enhancing their growth and your contributions, and want to kind of say thank you.